5 o'clock, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. If everyone would rise and for the pledge and a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Play ball.
Thank you, Mr. Sackey. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate everyone coming out. Tonight, I'm going to do a roll call. Ms. Stoltz.
Here.
Mr. Safety.
Here.
Ms. Nichols.
Here.
Ms. Hamby.
Here.
Ms. Hale.
Here.
Mr. Davis.
Here.
And Mr. King.
Here.
And we have Ms. Stout joining us via Zoom. So, Ms. Stout.
Here.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, so we have a first and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Okay. I just, you and I are going to be doing this, okay?
Thumbs up.
Next on the agenda is the TMSAA. We put this on a special call to give an additional notice to our general public so that we would meet all of our due diligence in putting it out there to see if anyone had further discussion on it. So I'll open the floor for a motion.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve joining TMSAA.
Yes.
Okay,
Second that.
so we have a first and we have a second. Do we have any discussion?
I'd just like to know again how it's going to affect the younger children and the ones that might not can be in this travel ball thing that's going to happen.
Okay. Good question. So to put a number on the impact that could play versus not play, I think there was a comment last meeting that allowed us to understand that this was going to be in addition to the number of student athletes that were playing as opposed to subtraction. But to further solidify that effort and or concern, there's been a number of conversations around creating different pathways through the way of combining local youth sports with these schools in a way that's maybe not been done before.
But don't they have to pay for those local youth sports? Or do you know?
Currently, most local youth sports are significantly less in financial obligation than school sports. So on average, I think it's $50 or less typically. There's ways to fund that and or subsidize that via grants, which we've been very blessed with writing this year. We learned that those are great opportunities, and that is a very useful way for us to help offset some of those costs for some of the kids that may not be able to.
One of the questions that a couple of different questions that I've received was, what about gym time? You know, would this mean that they would have less gym time? And I loved hearing about the dead period. I was like, the what? The dead period? That's kind of scary. But what it meant was that there are no sports that are played within that period. But other than that period, any gym could be opened by any coach at any time. So there are kids that go in and do practicing and do what they need to do when they need to do that. So it would not take away individual gym time for kids to be there. And then I said, well, when the bus isn't running them back and forth, how do they get to where they are? And each of the different people that I talked to said, parents make sure they get there. If they have a kid that's committed in a sport, parents make sure that they get there. And there was also funding in other places for shoes and uniforms and things that they needed that they couldn't get if they weren't playing school or whatever ball. So That was really the main thing I think that I got, that poorer kids would be left out. And every one of the coaches that I listened to that night when we were here, I never heard that. And then I called some of them to ask them, what about the less fortunate children in your school that cannot afford to join sports? He said, if they are dedicated and they make the team, we find a way to make it work. He said, we are not going to leave kids behind. We are in it to coach the kids. It's not about us. It's about them. So he said, if they're called and they're stepping up and they're meeting their needs, then we'll fulfill them. We'll figure out a way to do it. And we always have. Some of the coaches I talked to are doing other schools free. I mean, they don't even get paid for doing some of the stuff that they do. They just do it because they're coaching and they want kids to go from elementary to middle to high school, and then high school to college someday, maybe to pro ball. So, and then the freedom was also that I liked, that I heard at that meeting, and then the ones that I called was that there's that break in between sports, that they could go play another sport, that a kid would be relieved from one season to go into another sport. Like I talked to one that likes to do basketball and wrestling, and that would free him up to do those two things, that he liked both of those sports. It wasn't just one that he liked doing. So, well, I got my questions answered. I asked a bunch of them.
That's great.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
So basically, we're voting on rules, different kinds of rules that we're voting to join this association for the rules of the games.
So the governance of it is definitely the framework or the chassis that will support, much alike the TSSAA, which all high school sports are governed by. It's essentially the same framework for the middle school, the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. But within that, I guess within our vote, obviously, we have to support the additional needs of the coaches and the support staff that are going to be responsible for making sure that it takes place the way that it needs to. So we would be adding positions, we would be creating, that's where that financial burden comes into play, of asking for that additional $17,700, I believe.
Mr. King?
I have a couple of things, if I could.
Sure.
For over a year, I've listened to parents, students, coaches, principals, teachers, supervisors, and other board members, plenty of people in the community from all districts. I've listened to everyone. I've asked questions. I represent my district and the entire county. I act on knowledge and experience from decades of being in education. I've been a parent. I still am. A grandparent of athletes in our schools. I was one myself in high school and college. I'm a competitive person, and I know that proper training equals success. Shouldn't students be taught in elementary up to high school skills, rules, sportsmanship, teamwork, competitive participation? They need time to develop in a natural way. They need to grow in many ways outside of athletics as well. There are many reasons I've heard that have been listed for us to join TMSAA: insurance, officials, state playoffs, listen to coaches. Coaches are saying that if they had them from 6th to 8th grade, basically they would have everything they needed to be state champs. I've heard that all other sports are already in middle schools, so what's hold up on basketball? Joining TMSAA will cost $17,700 a year, every year. It's a recurring expense. Does the membership not limit our players in participation? We'd be going down from maybe 100 players to 40 or 60. How is that helping students? If we're being told that if you're cut from a team, it's good for the students to hear, so then why aren't our best players ever learned that lesson? Students have told me that they're choosing not to play in some cases rather than to be blended with another school. Why do we put them in that position? Building 2 middle schools is a possible hidden motive here, I think. If so, where will we get a couple $100 million to do that? just have middle schools in the finest comprehensive athletics facilities. Should we not vote for what's the right thing totally? The totality of the circumstances. On some things we agree, on some things we don't, and that should be okay. There remains a great deal to resolving this properly. I think basically you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. King, I would have to agree.
Me too.
I'm not sure if you're right or if you're wrong or what's the best thing to do for our students, but I think you said it very well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Any further discussion, any further comments? Okay, okay. I want to give you an opportunity. If you have something to add, you're certainly welcome to.
Thank you. No, I don't. Thanks.
Okay. Then we have a first and second to adopt joint TMSAA. I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call vote on this because sometimes I get lost in the yays and nays. Ms. Stoll,
Yes.
Mr. Safdie,
Yes.
Ms. Nichols,
Yes.
Ms. Hamby,
No.
Ms. Hale,
No.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. King, I'm sorry,
No,
Ms. Stout,
Yes.
oh, geez. Ms. Boston votes yes. I think we need to, it carries 5-4. No, 6-3. Okay. So, this board has voted to join TMSAA with a 6-3 vote. With that being said and that being adopted, and not, since we're in the dead period, sorry,
I know, it's weird.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to do a resolution to fund. I think it's 17.7 that we need to fund. Now, Kim, help me out. Do I do it in the 22-23 budget or the 23 and 24? I'll have to do it in the 23-24. Okay, then I would make a motion that we move 17,700 from fund balance in the 23-24 budget to fund what the board has voted to join TMSAA. And I will need a second on that.
Second.
Okay, so we have, that goes ahead. Any discussion on that? Okay,
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that gonna cover everything? Because, there was a question about the, $25 per coach if they are not one of our employees. If we have a coach come in, then we have to pay, TMSAA $25 per
Are you talking about coach or referee?
coach. And that's what it says.
Maybe.
The referee.
It says per non-faculty coach.
is that not included, Kim, in those stipends?
No, it is not.
When would they do that? When would you call in a coach?
When we have non-faculty coaches, we have, a coach that's, we have a number of them in the system right now.
Oh,
They
okay.
don't work at a school, they're a non-faculty coach. There's a $25 fee that they have to pay at TMSAA. The team usually covers that out of their
So it was like when Stuart Sitten, he spoke up?
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Correct.
Thank you.
So that's covered out of the team money, not out of our budget? Okay.
Or
that
some
was-
coaches will pay it themselves, so it doesn't cost the team. It's $25.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay, just making my notes. Any further discussion?
I think that from the get-go, this was, the funding was an issue, and, some principals brought up, why do we have to spend $300? And I think that from the very start of this, we suggested that funding the first 2 or 3 years be provided by the Cumberland County Board of Education. And that's what I see taking place now. The stipends will be more permanent, okay? And how much of the stipends?
15,000 is what they calculated. 15,000 is what they calculated.
And, we're paying over $500,000 for
500.
coaches right now, so.
561,000 is what was budgeted.
Right. And I see no reason why we shouldn't
Well,
fund.
the budget committee talked about TMSAA in length. If we joined it, this would be a cost. If we voted to join it, we knew the cost would come later. We just couldn't fund it, something that the board had not approved at that point. So this is more of a procedural thing than anything. We had already talked about it and approved it, or discussed it in a very favorable manner.
So the school system sometime in the future can, individual schools will absorb the cost of $300 a year for the membership in the TMSAA. And then we will, as the Board of Education, unless something goes awry, we will continue to pay the stipends.
We pay the stipends on all the other coaches, so. Cool. I think 15,000 would be certainly in line.
500, yeah.
Thank you, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Safdie.
Since this involves funding, I'm going to do a roll call vote. Ms. Stoll?
Yes.
Mr. Safdie?
Yes?
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Ms. Hamby?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
No.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. King?
No.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
And Ms. Boston votes yes. So, Kim, can you take care of that matter for us?
Do that.
Next on the agenda is the first and final reading of a policy 1.401, and I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Hamby.
Okay, we did have this on our regular board meeting, and I apologize that I overlooked. We are supposed to, as a board, choose an amount of time to allow for community comments. Like right now, we do 3 minutes per person. That will stay at 3 minutes per person, but how long of a time do we want to allow? 30 minutes for community comments, so on and so forth. And again, I apologize that I overlooked this at our meeting. The reason this was added on tonight's meeting is because it goes into
Time
law
sensitive.
on July 1st, and it needs to be done so that she can get it sent to Nashville. So, I'm gonna recommend that we put it at 30 minutes. That gives ample time for 10 people to sign up for community comments.
I agree. Yeah.
Now, are you making that in the form of a motion?
I am gonna make a motion that we insert 30 minutes on page 2 of policy 1.404, where it is asking for how long for community comments.
Can I just clarify something?
Yes, you may.
This policy was actually voted on and approved at the last board meeting.
Yes.
The only issue is
Was
that
the
there was
time.
a blank.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
And
Yes.
so all this board is doing is filling in a blank.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
30
That's
minute
it.
thing. Yes.
Thank you, Earl.
Thank you.
Just because of the time issue
I understand.
going into law, and we want to make sure that we comply with that.
I understand. I just wanted to make that point.
Yes.
Thank you for doing that, Earl.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a first, we have a first and a second. Is there any discussion? Is 30 minutes?
Okay with everybody?
Is
Yeah, that gives us
everybody?
ample time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, If there's no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So, Ms. Diane, we have cleaned that up for you. Next on the agenda is old business. Is there any?
I have something.
Yes, sir.
I would, as old as we are, I would like to thank Dan Schlafer
Oh.
for being here and
As old as
talking
we
and discussing the TMSAA with our faculty and our board. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, now, you two guys can refer to being old all you
I
want
know,
to.
listen to
Do
him.
not include me in that.
As old as we are. I thought, has he got a rock in his pocket?
Yeah, you can
Was that a
leave.
sexist? Age-related discrimination?
Thank you, Mr. Schlager.
Yes, thank you so much.
We're the white hairs.
Yeah, there you go, that's good, I like that.
Thank you, Robbie.
You're welcome.
But don't include me when you're referred to old.
And, you know, we also should thank all of the coaches that
Yeah,
are here.
all the time, all of you give.
For being,
Yes.
for being consistent
Thank you.
and expressing yourselves. Thank you very much.
And parents.
Yep. And parents.
Questions from the media, Mo? I'm gonna write you a question down and just hand it to you next meeting. You can ask me. Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Ms. Dowell.
Thank you.